All right guys, so let me give you a rundown real quick on what we've got to do to this trailer. All right, so I had a request from a viewer that asked if I could go in a little bit more detail on how I find my customers. It's kind of ironic because this trailer actually got brought to me from a viewer of the channel. They just recently moved to Utah and they reached out to me from Google, I'm assuming, or at least that's how they got my number, and asked if I would be interested in making some modifications on their trailer. So that's how they found me. But I honestly don't do a whole lot of marketing. I could, and I probably should, but I feel like having a full-time job on the side, I stay plenty busy as it is, and sometimes it's even hard for me to keep up where I don't do a whole lot of marketing. And so for me, the way I find the majority of my customers is just word of mouth. I live in a fairly small town and, you know, people talk, and I do believe that that's why it's so important that you do a good job and that you leave a lasting impression. Because if you do a good job, especially in a small town, word's going to get out, hey, this guy does pretty good work, maybe try him. And it will actually spread like wildfire. You'd be amazed at how many people hear about what you do just because they chat and they're talking about, hey, I got a trailer that needs some work, I got to find somebody. Well, I know a guy, you know, so word of mouth is probably the biggest thing for me. Obviously, I've got the YouTube channel, I do Instagram and Facebook. I never had a Facebook account until just recently, probably within the last 6 months. And I just thought, you know what, with social media the way it is today, if somebody's going to look for somebody to do work, what are they going to do? They're probably going to jump on their phone and they're going to either Google it or they're going to look it up on Facebook or whatever. So I think if you don't take advantage of those platforms, you're probably losing customers. I feel like the main thing is if you treat people with respect, if you're a decent human being and you try to be nice to people and polite, and you leave somewhat of an impression. I don't claim to be the best guy on the planet, but I do try to be a good person, and I feel like people can see that. If you try to be a good person, they recognize that. And so it's not just about welding. You need to be a decent person, and that has an effect on people, and they recognize that. And when they do see that, they're more likely to refer you. Some of the best customers and clients that I have are people that I did not know from Adam, or large companies that I never knew existed, that I had a friend and they referred me to someone, to a company, to a client, and said, hey, you should really try this guy. I think he does decent work. And so that's kind of where it started. And like I said, some of the best clients I have are from situations like that. So that would be my advice. Do a good job, work hard, be a decent person, be polite, be respectful. People recognize that and they're more likely to refer you. And you'll be amazed at how fast word spreads when they say, hey, I met this guy. I think he might be pretty decent. He seems like he knows what he's doing. And before you know it, you got more work than you can handle. So give that a try. I didn't mean to get sidetracked, but I did want to address that because I feel like it's important and I feel like I do get a fair amount of questions about it. So that's my opinion, that's my input on it. So the way I found this job is the customer recently moved to Utah. He lives in northern Utah now. From what I understand, he's got a bunch of Connexes that have all of his property, his belongings, his whole life in. And he's looking for some property right now to build a home here. So he's got to be able to move these Connexes around. He uses this trailer to move his Connexes from A to B. He reached out to me, told me what he wanted, asked if I could do it. I said, sure, bring it down. We'll take a look at it, see if we can get you fixed up. Very nice guy. He brought his sweet wife with him down here. I got to meet them both. It was nice meeting them. And I honestly feel pretty lucky that they would want me to work on their trailer. So we're going to see if we can't do them a good job here. What we've got to do is we've got to take these sleeves. Now this is a pre-manufactured part, and it's kind of a cam lock system, but it mounts down in the deck of the trailer, and the Connex sets on top of it, and then the corner fittings, if you haven't ever looked at a Connex, pay attention next time you see one, because there's fittings on the corners. That's how they move those Connexes. That's how they strap them down or anchor them down. They do a lot of things with those corner fittings on a Connex. So that's where these fittings are going to mount. And I'll give you an up-close view of this. But this is going to mount flush with the deck. And then you're going to have to reach underneath, grab this handle, push up, and twist it. And it will actually lock the Connex down. There is a little bit of slop in it. It's designed that way. I've actually looked this manufacturer up. I made sure about how they mount, what the manufacturer's specifications are for it, how they recommend installing it, and how they function, so that I know that when I install it, it's installed properly. I'll give you guys a close-up look at what these look like, and then we're going to start tearing the deck off of this, because I have to get in here so that I can see where I can tie in the frame. Connexes are heavy, so this is going to have to be another structural job. So I'll grab the camera and show you guys a close-up look of these and kind of how they function, give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. All right, so these are the fittings. So like I said, this piece here, it's actually weldable cast, and it's going to mount flush with the deck. So we're going to have to come up with some sort of a plate system where this is going to mount to. One other thing I do want to mention here, the customer brought me some drawings, and I just thought that was fantastic. There's a lot of times where customers will bring you stuff like this, and they really don't know how they're supposed to mount or what the dimensions are supposed to be. And I mean, it's a pretty, this one here has got to be perfect. To be able to drop a Connex over the top of it and tighten it down, it's got to be perfect. So he brought me all the dimensions. He told me what size container he's using. These are all the factory dimensions for this unit. This unit here is a tandem lock unit, and these are the specifications that it gives you straight off the internet, so that I'm sure that I can lay this out exactly how he needs it. And you can see it gives you the corner dimensions. So I'm going to be able to pull my dimensions from corner to corner, straight across, and I'll make sure that they're right on the money before we go ahead and weld them out. So kudos to Mike. Hopefully he doesn't mind me saying his first name, but kudos to Mike for bringing me some drawings. I always appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to start tearing this deck off, and I'm going to start right here. I'm going to pull these 3 small boards. These 2 back ones are going to mount right here. We are going to have to remove this bracket. So once I get the deck off, we'll be able to look and see kind of what we're dealing with and see where we're going to be able to mount to the frame. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Whew. Those screws are no joke. Lovely. Well, okay, that's 4 out of 12. Grab me some WD-40. Let's see if that works. Ooh. Goodness. As long as we don't have any that break off, we'll be doing good. And I'm actually going to number these because sometimes they don't fit together perfect.
Oh, it's like a box.
There we go. All right, so I'll give you guys a close look here at what we've got to do. Looks like there's a couple of welds we're going to have to scarf off. One of them's going to be quite enjoyable. All right, so I want to show you guys what we're dealing with here. First thing I'm looking at, like I said, I've got to scarf this out. It's got to go. And I've set a tape up here. So I'm looking at these prints. These are the dimensions that are going to matter most to us right here, is these four. So you got S, and it tells you S at the bottom is 230.44. Okay, so if we're 230 and a half, I've set this up to where that's center. That is center of our pocket, so it'll mount something like this. And then I've set up a tape, and I've ran it down here. 230 and a half hits right there. So the next thing that could potentially be an issue is we've got to be between two cross members. So there's a cross member here and a cross member there. So we've got to be between those, because when we're done, we'll have to cut these boards and just have plate. And I've got to have cross members so that I can mount the boards on the edge. It'll make sense as we go, but I'm going to have to pull all these boards. So that's going to be the next order of business. I'm going to pull these boards so that I can see what's underneath, see what I'm dealing with. I think, yeah, that's what I thought. So I'm going to have to cut one of these out too, so that you can get to, oh, these slide. So I'm probably going to have to pull a section of one of these out so that he has clearance for the handle to crank that down. So, all right, next order of business, take the boards off. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back. All right, guys, so I'll give you an update here. You see I've got all the boards pulled off the trailer. So my goal for tonight is to try to get these cut out. Shouldn't take long. I'm going to grab the plasma, scarf these welds. There's a weld on either side there. And then there's one there. And then there's one underneath. And that's going to be the fun one. So these ones are going to be a little bit more challenging than these ones. Where there's a weld on both sides of these, I'm actually going to try to cut this flush, because I'm going to have a plate that comes down here. So I'm going to cut flush here and flush here, and then take this section out. Now here's the other challenge. So our measurement was about 230 and a half. Okay, so that puts us kind of close to this cross member. So the center of our tandem lock fitting is going to be right here. So I could either push it back this way, and then the one down there is going to be awful close to that back cross member, or I push it forward and make this one close to this front one. So that's what I went with. So if you look, it's going to be about right there. So our tandem lock's going to sit right here, and then down at this end, this one's going to sit right here. So they're both pretty close to a cross member, and I think that's going to work just fine. So I think we're going to be just fine with quarter. We're just going to make sure we beef it up, we tie it in with the frame. I'm probably going to add a cross member on the other side of our tandem lock right here. So it'll sit here, and then I'll add another cross member here just to tie everything in and make it extra solid. A Connex weighs about 12,000 pounds empty. I believe that's what Mike said. And once he gets it loaded, this trailer is rated to haul, I believe, 28,000 pounds, or at least that's what the axles are rated for. So we need to beef it up and make sure that it's strong enough that, you know, if there's a stiff 60-mile-an-hour wind or whatever, it's going to hold up to that kind of pressure. And you guys know I like to go overkill. So that's kind of the plan. I'm going to see if I can get the plasma over here, scarf this off, and get these cut off. So I might as well announce it now. I really wish it was here, but it's not yet. But I did put an order in for a smaller CNC press brake. I've just gotten to the point where I've got stuff like this that I'm doing quite frequently that I need one. And so I'm excited to get it. The lead time on it's 6 weeks. I ordered it 2.5 weeks ago, so we're looking another month. So I'm hoping early June it should ship out and I should see it. It's coming from South Dakota, so it shouldn't take too long to get here. So pretty excited. It's really a pretty neat setup. I'll show you more when I get it, but just wanted to let you guys know. For one, it makes things look a lot more professional. It's going to save me time and money. I'm going to be able to get things done a lot quicker like this. It's accurate. So, you know, a tool like that, in the long run, it really does save you some money. So I did finance it, and we'll go over more of those details when it finally gets here, but I just wanted to let you guys know, be watching for that. All right, so I'm going to grab the plasma, get set up, see if I can't scarf these out before it's time to go in the house and eat dinner. So let's get after it. I did want to throw one more thing out there real quick. You'll notice that I am wearing my Western Welder shirt again. So I really like the shirt. I think they hold up great. I like how thick they are. This one is the FR shirt, and I don't think I've been burned once since I've had it. I like the way they fit. They're comfortable. I would say they run a little bit on the small side, so keep that in mind if you order one. The only problem that I've found with this shirt is when you're a moron and you leave your pen in your shirt, it stains it. So that's my bad. I went ahead and ruined my favorite welding shirt because I forgot to take the pen out and my wife washed it. So just be aware that if you are kind of absent-minded like myself, there's a good chance you could end up with some tie-dye. Anyway, I do like the shirt. Just wanted to throw it out there. Let's get back to work. All right, so we were able to get the 2 back brackets cut out, and now we're going to start working on the front ones. So I've taken a piece of soapstone and I've made a mark on both sides because I want to get this as square as possible, because I'm going to have a piece of plate that sits down in there. So we're going to cut this off as square as possible. I'm just going to use the plasma cutter. I've changed it from a gouging tip to a cutting tip. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll give you guys a look after I get it done. All right, so here's my plan for this. I'm going to buy a piece of 1/4 inch deck plate. I've got to buy some 3-inch channel. I'm going to stick the 3-inch channel up under here. It's going to weld in place here, and it will butt up to this. I may have to cope it just a little bit for this, but this is going to stiffen up this section because I don't like how far it's spanning, and it is holding a Connex, so we want it to be as strong as possible. I thought about burning the hole on the burn table for this, but I don't know if I like that. And the reason is, if I get the plate mounted on here and weld it up, and then the last thing I do is lay it out, I'll be able to put a center punch right where the center of all these go. I'll be able to pull diagonal both ways to make sure it's square. I'll be able to check my measurements 3 and 4 times. Once I get that all squared away and I know that my measurements are perfect, I'll probably cut a template on the burn table that is this design. I'll take my soapstone and I'll lay it out and I'll flame cut it. I'll drop it in and I'll weld it out. So that's my plan. Now let's go show you what my plan is for the front. All right, so for this section, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to take my deck plate and I'm going to break either side so that it comes down past these cross members. That's going to do a couple things. This bracket, where these slide up and down, and these are for your straps. I mean, I could pull this right out if I wanted. If I extend that piece of deck plate clear down to here, I'll be able to weld this here, and then obviously this won't be able to go past there. I'm going to do that on both sides. So I'm going to break it on either side. It's going to extend past. I'll weld it to here. And I'm going to have it overlap here, so it'll be sitting on top of this. Lap joint, lap joint. That's going to be plenty strong. He'll be able to haul elephants in tornadoes, and it shouldn't be a problem. So that's my plan. Like I said, I don't have all the material right now, so that's about as far as I can get to this point. I'm just going to clean up a little bit. I've got to start packing some stuff for a mobile job tomorrow. I got to go do an install on some handrail in Salt Lake, so I'm going to get my tools put together, get the truck loaded up, get everything ready, and that's probably going to be it for me tonight. So I'll pick up steel on Monday because they're closed on the weekend, and we'll pick back up once I have some material. See you then. What's up, guys? We're back out here tonight, and we're just getting our deck plate loaded up here. All right, so this plate has a couple different names. I'm sure you guys have all seen it. It's got this raised crosshatch pattern on it. and it can be referred to as deck plate or floor plate. I did get the pattern drafted. Now all I have left to do is burn them. It's gonna get noisy. All right guys, so there's what our drawings look like. Fire in the hole. All right guys, hopefully you can see that okay, but there's our parts all burned. So I'm gonna pull these out, get them over on the table, clean them up, and start laying them out so we can break them. All right guys, so I wanna give you a look at what my plan is here. So I got a piece of 3-inch channel. This is 3-inch by 5. And when I say 5, it's 5 pounds per foot. So it's the heavier 3-inch channel. Now this is gonna be able to weld here, 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 up under here, and here. So that will tie everything in and make it probably twice as strong as it was before. Then I've got my piece of deck plate. And that fits like a glove. So I'm gonna stitch weld around this and get that welded into place. I got the XNT rolled out here, and we're gonna use that for this project. You guys know that anytime I weld on structural, I'm either welding with dual shield or stick. That's just what I prefer. And then when I get to those other two on the front, I'll do the same thing, give you guys a look at how I've got this set up and laid out. Before I do that, we are gonna have to break the two that go on the front. And when I get ready to do that, I'll come back to you guys and give you guys a look. All right guys, so I got my front plates all cleaned up and we're ready to get them over in the press brake. Now, I just wanted to explain something real quick. So the opening needs to be 14.5. I know I've explained this before, but the way I was taught, if you've got a 90, so if this is my plate and I've laid out my mark in this corner, by the time you break it, it grows the thickness of the plate. So if this is 1/4-inch plate and you broke it here, it can actually grow a little bit more because this radius is not exactly a 90. There is a little bit of a radius there, which will cause it to bump out just a little bit more than the thickness of the plate. So I like to put my knife just on the inside mark. That way when I break it and it grows, I'm still within the 14.5. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. When I break this, if I lay it out at 14, by the time I break it, it's gonna grow a 1/4-inch here and a 1/4-inch here. That should give us 14.5 OD by the time we're done. So I'll get this over in the brake and we'll see if the machine will do it. It should. I looked on the chart on the machine and it says it should do a 1/4-inch plate. So we'll get it over there and see if it'll do it. Okay, so like I said, I like to stay just this way of my line. That way, if there is just if it is a little bit over, I should still be within my OD measurement. Ooh. Oh yeah, she's gonna do it, but just barely. Ooh. I gotta grab a square so I can make sure this is square, and I don't want to over break it either, so I'm gonna go grab a square. All right. Obviously we're not quite there, so most of the time it'll settle where it was before. There we go. So we're just gonna bump it. Okay, so this side is dang close, almost perfect. It's one more reason I needed a new one. This one is wore out. and I can't feather it. So it just, real jumpy, it just goes when it wants. It's a little bit overbroke, but roll with the punches. So our measurement right now is just a hair over 14 3/8, which is right where I want it to be. So I'm gonna go over and slide it in. I'll show you what it's gonna look like. Okay guys, moment of truth. We got our part here. Like I said, it is just overbroke just a hair. But honestly, I think I'm gonna be able to clamp it to these and pull it out where it needs to be. It's not that big a deal. Being 1/4 inch plate, we can move it where we need to. So let's check the fit. Ooh, yeah. That is about perfection. So that's how she looks. So I'm going to be able to get some stitch welds in here. I don't want them too big because we got to mount the boards back to this. So there will be some decking that goes back in here, and we don't want the welds to interfere with that. So I'm going to keep these stitches pretty small. It'll be stitched out here and out here. But you can see the gap is right where I wanted it. Now on the bottom side, you can see that I broke the legs. These legs, I broke them long enough so they extend past here. I will have just a little bit of gap there, but once I pull this back out with a clamp, I'll be able to weld these out, and that will stop those strap, I don't even know what you call those, strap brackets. That'll stop them from sliding out of here. So we'll get the other one broke, and then we'll get them fit up, and then we'll start laying out our pattern. Let's do it. What's up guys? I just wanted to give you guys an update. So we came back out tonight, and all I have done pretty much the whole night is try to get these measurements spot on. So I've been at this for pretty much 2.5 hours, but I've got our measurements dialed. The measurements that matter to us are P, S, and then you've got D1 and D2. So D1 and D2, that's our diagonal measurements. Those have to be within 1/8 of an inch. P has to be within like 3/64, and S has to be within 1/8 of an inch as well. So we've pulled our measurements all 4 directions, and so I want to show you guys what I've come up with. I was trying to think of what the best way to do this is going to be to keep my cutouts within 1/8 of an inch, or dang near exactly right on the money. So I decided to cut out a template on the burn table. So here's what I got. So that's what I cut out. You can see the hole in the center. So you can see I've got my line laid out here, and that center pop right there, that's the one I need to use for my diagonal measurement. So now I'm going to take this, it actually goes this way. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to lay this on there to where my center pop is right in that hole. Hopefully you guys can see that. So it's right in that hole. Now I'm going to be able to stick a square on here and line it up with the edge of this so it's nice and square with the trailer. We'll put that right center of that center pop. And once I've got it right where I want it, I'll take soapstone and I'll trace that, and then I'm just going to flame cut it. So we are to that point. So we are to the point now where we're ready to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and start getting them laid out. So we'll go ahead and grab the torches, start getting these cut out, and we'll go from there. It's gonna be freaking perfect. Clean that up with a grinder. I think we'll be good. Sometimes the order of operation in fabrication can bite you. If you don't do things in the right order, sometimes it can bite you. I'm afraid that's what's gonna happen if I just go ahead and cut all these, and then I end up cutting these tacks and pulling these out and welding the structure in underneath. Now for the front two, it's not an issue because they're gonna live right there. I've decided I'm not gonna pull those because there's not a piece of channel that welds underneath those. So they can live there for the rest of the life of the trailer. That's where they'll be. But on these two rear ones, where I've got that piece of channel running across here, I want to get that welded to the structure underneath, and there's two welds that I can't make with it in place the way it is now. So I'm going to cut these tacks. I've marked the whole plate, so I'm sure that I can get it back where it is now. I'm going to cut these two tacks, pull that out, get the channel, put the channel in place, weld it out, drop the plate back on top, and then tack it, and then that's where it'll live. It's not a huge deal at this point because I don't have all the holes cut. Where I've only cut this hole, I don't feel like it's that big a deal. I should still be okay. I feel like I just about made a big mistake because, like I said, order of operations. That's probably going to be my goal for tonight, is I'm just going to try to get this cut out and fixed up and get it permanently put into place where it's going to live. And if I can do that tonight, I'm going to consider that a win. So that's the plan. So I'm going to weld it here and here and here and here and here and here. Get it welded to the structure. Everything that I can't get from underneath that's going to be trapped, I'm going to weld it here. So we'll go ahead and get this tacked up and weld it out. We got the little pig farmer out here tonight. Huh? Are you a pig farmer? Are you? That's good. You got your mitt? You playing baseball?
Oh, hey, what's that?
It's a air dryer. Okay. Yeah. You playing baseball in your pig boots? Yeah. Oh, good. That is perfect. So on that next one, obviously before I burn my hole, I'm gonna cut the tacks, move it out of the way, fix the channel, weld the channel in, drop the plate back, tack it back in place, and then I'll double check my marks laterally and diagonally to make sure that everything is still where it needs to be. Hey, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Woo! What's up, guys? It's a little bit darker in the shop than usual right now. What's going on, guys? It's a little bit darker in the shop than usual right now, and I'll show you why. So, as I was laying awake last night trying to think of one more way that I can verify that these measurements are perfect and that it's square. All right, guys, quick update. Tonight, my goal is to try to get all the holes cut and cleaned up and ready to weld our brackets in. Now, as luck would have it, the toolbox, which holds the other three brackets, is locked. As luck would also have it, I've got to drive up the direction of the customer and stop and pick up the keys from him so that when I come back down, I can unlock that and get the other three out and continue to get these installed. We're going to see if we can't get all the holes cut and start welding on the structure. Let's do it. All right, guys, so we got our holes all cut in all four corners. So now the next thing to do is just going to be bounce around, start welding. I'm going to start on this one because the welder's already here. So I'm just going to start right here. I've got my stitch pattern laid out here. So I'm doing a 2-inch stitch in the middle, 2 inches here, 2 inches here, and then I'm gonna weld these corners out. This is gonna be welded solid. This is gonna be welded solid, and then stitch pattern there as well. Once I get that done, and I am gonna bounce around when I do this, but I'm also gonna get up underneath and weld the structure. There's all kinds of places here where I'm gonna stitch. So I'm gonna stitch to the channel there and around the outside edge there to the frame. These are the I-beams that run down the center of the trailer. So I'm gonna stitch to that, stitch to the channel, and then stitch up under here. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld these out now. I'm gonna bounce around. We'll jump into time-lapse mode, and then once I get these done, I'll come back and give you guys a look. Let's do it. All right, guys, we got these welded out. All but our tandem lock bracket. Everything else is welded out. Got the structure welded underneath. So now all that's left is to mount this and then run the piece across that ties in with the bottom. And tomorrow night we'll see if we can get the front two knocked out. So I'm gonna hurry and clean up. Catch you guys tomorrow.
What's going on, guys? We're back out in the shop tonight. I apologize for my voice. I'm still trying to get over the gumbo, but I'm going to show you guys what I've got done. All right, so the front structure pieces are all welded out. We did use dual shield for that. They're stitch welded on the sides here. I didn't want to put too much weld in here because those boards have to drop back in, and I don't want the welds to be in the way. We're ready to take our pocket pieces and weld those in place. You can see I've hit those with a wire wheel to knock the rust off the top. From all the research I've done, you can weld it with any kind of process you want. You can TIG weld it, you can MIG weld it, you can stick weld it. I'm contemplating stick welding these on the top. We'll see how it goes. I just feel like sometimes when you stick weld, you can be a lot more careful about where your puddle goes. And whereas dual shield is so fluid and it runs so fast, sometimes it's hard to control and produce a prettier weld. So I think I'm probably going to stick weld these out with 332 7018. I'll set up the camera on time lapse and I'll go ahead and start welding these out. Once I get these welded out, I'm going to have to crawl up underneath the trailer and get some measurements on a bottom piece that will secure this to keep it from moving side to side. But I'll give you guys an update once we get to that point. So let's get all set up, start welding out, we'll go from there. Okay guys, give you an update. So we did get all of our brackets welded in place, and as you could tell, we did stick weld them. So something that I did want to throw out there, and this is especially targeted at the youth that watch the channel. This is one of those situations where you could have welded this out with anything. You could have welded it out with MIG, TIG, or stick. But there are certain situations where knowing how to weld a different process is going to benefit you as a fabricator. So what I would say about that is there are a lot of guys out there that all they want to do is stick weld and that's it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But why not put another arrow in your quiver? And you know, if you're a pipeliner guy, if you just want to be a pipe welder, then sure, the majority of what you're going to do is probably stick welding. But I will say this, if you learn how to TIG weld, there's big money in that too. So don't just settle with knowing how to do one thing. In this sort of situation where I know how to stick weld and I was able to say, you know what, I think it'd be best to stick weld those out. If all I knew how to do was MIG weld, then you're backed into a corner where that's all you can do. Better yourself. Put more arrows in your quiver. Acquire more skills. That makes you more dangerous. That makes you more valuable. However you want to put it. So I want to give you guys a look at this, and I want to show you how it worked out exactly how I wanted it to. I didn't want it past flush, but I did want the bead to kind of roll around the corner to tie everything in. And stick welding is really good with that. And it's really nice because when you stick weld, you can watch your puddle and you can go at the perfect rate to where you can tie all that in. Sometimes when you're welding with dual shield, it's just too fast. It runs too fast. With structural, it's fantastic, but there are certain situations like this one where you have to be delicate, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes stick welding is the right tool. Sometimes stick welding isn't the right tool. I just wanted to throw that out there. Make yourself dangerous. Make yourself valuable. All right, let's take a look at these and I'll show you what I mean. So you can see the bead wraps around the corner. There's no undercut there. That turned out exactly how I wanted it. When the Connex sits on the deck, that's barely sitting up past the diamond pattern, if anything. So that's exactly how I wanted it. So I'm very happy with how those turned out. So now all that's left to do is I'm going to get the brackets fabricated underneath that tie the bottom of this pocket in, and then we'll have to tape it off and paint it. Once I get that done, that's going to wrap up the Connex bracket situation. I have talked to the customer, and they did add something that they wanted done before I bring it back. They've got a winch for the front of this trailer, and they want me to build a bracket for it and mount the winch to it. He's going to worry about the wiring, but I'm going to get it mounted for him, and I'm going to build the bracket and the plate and all that for him. So once we get this knocked out and we get it painted, we'll jump on that. Well, you know what? We'll probably have to paint that too. It's just about 10 o'clock, and I don't want to get in trouble with my neighbors. So I'm going to roll everything up, go to bed, and we'll catch up on this tomorrow.
The customer, that's the plan. I'll give you guys a look here at, I'll give you guys a close look at, I'll give you guys a close look, I'll give you guys a close look. Goodness, holy rerun. I mean, this trailer's rated to weigh, goodness. This trailer's weight. All right, guys, quick update. we're back out here tonight, and I'm just gonna try.
We might as well paint it all at once. So once we get these knocked out, I'm gonna jump on that, get that fabricated and built and welded on, mount the, no,